This is Twisted Passages with award-winning author Marie Sutro. Now, let's take a deep dive into the dark world of psychological thrillers and meet the authors who created them.
Hello, and welcome to Twisted Passages. I'm your host, Marie Sutro, and today we have a dynamic writing duo, veteran TV maker of some of your favorite shows, including Manifest, which he created, Jeff Rake, and the amazing USA Today bestselling author and award nominee, Rob Hart. Both here to talk about their amazing new release, DETOUR. Welcome, Jeff and Rob.
Thank you, Marie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for being here, because I will tell you, I absolutely adored this book. And the minute I ended it, I could not wait. This is my dream to get to talk to both of you right now. But before I start gushing, can you start listeners off with an overview of what the story's about?
Sure, and this is really fun because we're just starting the interview cycle. So this is the very first time that either of us is going to be pitching the book out loud, which is cool. But DETOUR revolves around 6 astronauts, 3 veteran astronauts and 3 civilians who undertake this trip to Saturn's moon Titan under the sort of funding and direction of an eccentric billionaire named John Ward. It's supposed to be a research mission, and they're supposed to go out and do some stuff, and some things go wrong on that mission. And as they come back, they get back to Earth, they find out that things are not exactly the way they were when they left. And Jeff, if you want to jump in and add anything.
Yeah, no, that's a great synopsis, and we're being a little elliptical about what happens next, but that is ultimately the beginning of the adventure.
And it is indeed just the beginning. This story was so amazingly cool. It immediately brought me back to one of my favorite places as I was growing up, which was the Twilight Zone and the Outer Limits. And I just have to ask both of you, were your childhoods or your adulthood, did any of that pepper into your creative process? I'll start off with you, Jeff. Ever watch Twilight Zone or Outer Limits?
Outer Limits, not so much, but Twilight Zone, none of us are old enough to have been watching in real time when those episodes were coming out, but 100%. I think of myself again and again at home. I had a lot of sick days. I was kind of a sick kid. And I just pictured myself in my bed, drinking my tea and watching reruns of The Twilight Zone. And of course, the comparison is apt. When we first started building this idea together, I think that Rob and I were both thinking about relatable experiences. My stories tend to always be about family, and having read a bunch of Rob's books, I think that both of us are super focused on relationships, relatable experiences, emotional experiences, and then marrying that relatability to high concepts that boggle the mind. And you know, that sweet spot between the two is where we find the gold. And I think we've mined it pretty well in this story.
Yeah. Twilight Zone, definitely, man. I remember when I was a kid, I would watch it, like, because on Thanksgiving and like New Year's Day, they would do just these long marathons of it, and I just absolutely loved it. I remember getting so excited when I finally got like the giant DVD set of the episodes. But I think beyond that too, I think I was thinking of like those really cool mystery box TV shows, like Manifest being one, Lost being another, where you've got these really in-depth, intense relationships with the characters, and you're kind of watching how their past and their traumas are informing the way that they act, while you're at the same time dealing with some weird, heady sci-fi concepts. And slowly over time, you're getting these little drips and drabs, and it's almost challenging you. It's like, can you figure this out? That was one of my favorite parts of writing DETOUR, was like, I'm just going to start throwing out theories, and the reader's not going to know what's right and what's wrong, but I want to give them a lot of tools to play with so that they can kind of sit there and go, okay, let's really think about this.
And one of the things that I really, really loved about this story, and Jeff, you kind of touched on it, you and Rob are so good at human interest stories, the whys and hows of what we do that make us, whether it's in your mainstay medium, which has been film and television, or in Rob's, which is the written word, getting us as consumers of that to think about ourselves and what do these, kind of these morality plays mean to us and who are we? And I wanted to ask a little bit about the character creation here and how you both came up with them, because Rob mentioned there's a team of astronauts and, the team is equally balanced with civilians and astronauts. Even I loved looking at those astronauts because you could have written them kind of as a monolith, but you didn't. They're all so unique and they bring so much about the human experience. What was it about those characters? Because they're very rich in backstory, they're very complicated. How did you come together and craft them?
I'll take a stab at that and hand it over to Rob. So, for me as a television viewer, as a reader of books, I find that characters on the page or on the screen that I can connect to in some personal way. And I think most of us feel this way. To the extent that we can connect with a character, as a person, as a member of a family, as a member of a friend group, as part of a team, the more effective the read is, the more effective the visual experience is. If we can connect with our hearts and with our minds, we lock in a way that makes the journey of the protagonist so much more powerful. When we think about our favorite books and our favorite TV shows, I think we all come to find that it's a personal relationship that we feel that we have with that protagonist that makes us enjoy the material so much more. So, in my 25 years as a television creator, I've had successes and I've had failures. And when I look back and try to dissect why something worked and something didn't, for me, it's all about the protagonist and the key supporting players and how we lock in. So maybe Rob will go into a little bit more detail about who these characters are, but I think that with each one of them, and Marie, I sense you experienced this as well, with each one of them, we lock into their journey because we lock into who they are, what their emotional baggage is, and what they need to overcome in the course of this story. And I think we did a pretty good job here with these 6 people, creating characters that we get. We get because we live their lives to some extent in our real life, or we've seen it. We know those people. Rob, I'll hand it off to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing I want to say too is that I think so much of the credit here goes to Jeff, because when like this whole thing came about because he had this idea and then was thinking about doing it as a TV show, and his team told him maybe think about it as a novel, and then a mutual friend put us together. But those characters were there when I got the pitch. That was the thing that was, so cool about it, is getting this really amazing pitch with these great ideas, but rooted in these solid characters that I could see very clearly. Like, I get why these characters are here. I can see why they matter to the story. I can see the potential. And yeah, so we've got not really the main character, but sort of like the leadership character, Ryan Crane, who's, a cop who has kids, who he ends up getting basically offered a spot on this flight. And you've got the sort of old school astronauts who are on this flight and are now dealing with the civilians who are not really trained for this mission. And then you've got the billionaire, John Ward, who is like, I'm a billionaire, so everyone's just going to do what I say, because that's how billionaires operate. And yeah, it's that ensemble just felt like it really clicked. Because I feel like that's always the hardest part when you're first putting together a story. Because yeah, look, an idea is meaningless without characters who can carry it. That's how we, fiction's an empathy machine, and it's how we understand how to relate to each other. So when you've got that core group of people that can carry that story to the finish line, it was great. It's like all the hard work was done by the time I started.
I don't know about that, but okay.
There was so much complexity to these characters, as I said, and Rob, you're spot on with the empathy, and Jeff, having the people that we've experienced in some form, either ourselves or those around us that we care about, being those doorways into each one of them. I was wondering, both of you, again, your character work has been amazing, and what it means to us in art, in reflecting to us back who we are as human beings. The question of choice comes up a lot in this story. There's a lot of choices to be made about who's going to do what, how they're going to do it, whether they're going to continue to do some things or choose to do other things. Are we indeed the sum of one or two main choices that are pivotal choices in our lives? Or is it all the little things on a daily basis who make up who we are?
That's a great question. Do we have do we have like another 6 hours to talk about it? No, I don't know. I personally, without getting too far afield, I think it's a bit of a mix. I think over the course of our lives, there are always going to be moments that sort of define us in terms of how we comport ourselves and how we relate to the people around us. And those larger moments have reverberations through the smaller moments. And they don't necessarily have to come when we're very young or we're developing. It could come later in life, where it's something that is sort of which path you end up walking down and what that's going to mean for you as a person. And that's why I make the joke about it, because it's such ripe storytelling material, and it's such a great place to be in, because that's all we ever are. We're a collection of our choices. So being able to write about that in that space is just really fun.
Yeah, 100%. And I like to think that it's a combination of choices large and small, because I would hate to think that any one choice that I made in my life changes everything forever. And it gives me a little bit more comfort to think that kind of the patchwork of choices that we make every hour of every day is building to something that we ultimately can be in control of. I like to think that destiny exists and that there is a such thing as fate, but I also like to believe in our personal agency, so that we have the opportunity to correct the mistakes of the past and redeem ourselves and learn and evolve. And the journey of these characters involves all of that to some extent, because there are one or two major, seemingly uncontrollable turns that happen in the story. But I think the reader will find that the collective agency of all of our heroes and how they respond to the seemingly uncontrollable gives them the ability to control their destiny. And it's really what this entire story is about. And we're on part one, and the readers are going to get to the end of this book and ask themselves, now what? And the journey is going to continue, spoiler alert. And hopefully we'll find that the moves these heroes make in real time will get them to the place they need to be.
Well, I was just so excited when I heard about this project. Rob, you mentioned that you were put together through a mutual friend.
Yeah.
Where did the idea come from for this? And how hard was it for you, Rob, to pick up that idea? It sounds like it was very much kind of in your heart and in your wheelhouse of how you perceive the world and the stories you like to tell. But what was it about this story? Where did it come from? And what was it about it that drew you in?
This story was the product of a shamelessly Machiavellian TV writer wrapping up one idea and spending day and night ruthlessly exploring concepts, always trying for that high concept, that big one sentence idea that you could share with someone and they say, oh my goodness, that would be crazy. I've spent many, many hours, days, weeks over the past 20 plus years just trying to land the big idea. Manifest came from a brainstorming session in the minivan with my wife and my 4 kids on the way home from the Grand Canyon, just challenging myself to think about what's the biggest, baddest thing that could happen to a family that could turn their life around. And then at the end of Manifest, I was chasing big ideas once again, and again, thinking about family and another way that some giant turn of events could turn a family upside down. Rob's heard this a few times. And that led me to thinking about space and space travelers, regular everyday people who might be sent on an unlikely space journey, a fish very much out of water, and some unexpected, seemingly impossible turn of events that could undo not only a person's life, but the life of themselves and their loved ones. And I sketched something out, wrote up some pages, thought it was a TV show. One of my reps suggested to me, well, maybe that is a book, as Rob mentioned. And I thought, well, there's no way I could write a book unless I could team up with an actual veteran, brilliant author of books. And that led to the mutual friend, that led to Rob, and I'll hand it over to you, Rob.
When I got the pitch, it was very, very exciting. First off, because Manifest was a great show and Jeff is an incredibly talented creator. But I feel like we live in the same kind of wheelhouse, which is we like those big ideas that are deeply rooted in character. So I got this pitch and I read it over, and it had already been sold to Random House World. So it was already happening. So I was like, oh man, I better get this. I'm going to be so bummed if I don't get this. I went in kind of hot, where I was like, okay, I love this pitch. I love everything about it. Here are all my ideas on what else we can do. And that's sort of the make or break moment, I think, in collaboration, because some people could be really precious about their ideas, and some people understand that it's not an ego game. The best idea has to win. And to be clear, everything that Jeff wrote is there. I just kind of helped amp it up a little bit. But Jeff is a TV guy, so he understands how to collaborate with people. And so our first conversation, it was like meeting a friend. It was like, oh, we get each other. Like, this is cool. And then we just kind of jammed back and forth on it for a while until we had something that we were ready to write. But it was just, it was the best example of how that process could go, where it was just, we were super excited to be working with each other. We were super excited about the ideas. And then it just turned into a mutual admiration, but also a mutual kind of like pushing each other a little bit of like, oh, but what if we did this? Oh, but what if we tried this? And like really trying to get it to where it needed to be.
I definitely get that team dynamic sense. There were no separate personalities in this. It was one voice. It was fluid. And the beautiful thing about it is, Rob, you're an amazing atmospheric visual writer. And Jeff, your medium has been visual all along. You guys just did it so very well, because there are multiple media ways that you're telling us this story. You're not just giving it through character point of view. We're getting other things. We're getting snippets from the news. We're getting emails. We're getting texts. We're getting a variety of things to read. In one instance, I think we get a schematic, if I'm correct there. And it was so very fun because it was so real about how we live every day and how we absorb things and how we learn things. What made you decide to go in all of those directions to tell us the story in all these ways? And how did you do it so flawlessly?
That's nice to hear. So most of that, I have to say, came from my partner. I nailed a lot of those story points, but again and again, Rob would come back and say, love that. What if we do that this way? When I first kind of framed the story, it didn't occur to me that all of those innovative methods of storytelling that you're referring to could be part of the story. And again, Rob, what if we show the schematic of this? What if this is a text exchange and not just dialogue or internal monologue? As you said, text, news reports. And it allowed us to, in a decidedly contemporary way. And by the way, the book, it takes place in kind of a slightly near future. And so we take a few liberties with how some of the communication happens. What if we just go this way instead of that way? And Rob, you can elaborate on that. But it certainly lifted up the method of storytelling. And I think viewers will be excited to experience that.
I see. Now I kind of want to look back, because I think in the original pitch, it said something about wanting to do interstitials.
It may have, but I don't think I knew what I was talking about.
Well, because I think what my recollection, at least, which could be wrong, who knows, is I feel like I saw that and I was like, I am going nuts with this, because I did a little bit of that in The Warehouse, and they're just a fun storytelling technique. But when I was figuring out how to handle the ones in DETOUR, because the thing is like they're fun and they're interesting, but they have to serve the story. They can't just be there because they're cool. They have to be there because the story would be lesser without them. So it becomes this challenge of like, how do I present this in the most interesting way that is also going to fit? And yeah, like I wanted a drawing of the ship they're on so bad, because I wanted to write a book that had a drawing on it, because I've never done that before. I will just occasionally get something in my head and I'm like, this is a thing that I will do on this book and we will figure it out. I literally, I think we submitted the draft with like in brackets and big letters, it goes, picture of ship goes here. And luckily, Random House found an amazing artist who was able to take my sort of weird explanation of what it should look like, of what an interstellar spaceship should look like, and actually create something that is cool and makes sense. But yeah, no, it's just it's such a fun way to tell a story, and I think it lends itself to that mystery box vibe of like where we're creating this level of like, you know, we don't want to make the reader do homework, but we want to challenge them a little bit to kind of look at what we're presenting them and say, okay, you know, there's an answer here somewhere, but you got to help figure it out too.
Well, I probably should have announced at the beginning and been more transparent as a host of the show that I'm a huge, as Josh Dallas coined the term, manifester. Was so happy when the show was brought to Netflix. And just for listeners who don't know, it's an amazingly cool show. And if you haven't read Assassins Anonymous, Rob's series of books, or any of his other books, this is a place you need to be. There's so much to be found in this. But just as a sense for how dearly loved that show was, that fans actually appealed and had it brought back and brought it to the fore, and Netflix was great enough to take it on and appeal to all of those fans who wanted more. The reason I bring that up is because I so want more of this story. It ends on 3 words that are so phenomenal, yet they have me hooked so very badly. If I could see that next script, not saying that I'm pushing for it, but wink, wink, if I could get it. I am just so excited about this story and so excited about these characters. So thank you both for working the unique magic that you both can bring.
Thanks, Marie.
Well, and again, like we're right at the start of promoting this book, and there's always, and look, like our editors liked it, the people who've read it early liked it, but there's still that moment of transition when like other people start reading it and it starts getting out into the world. And it is the best feeling in the world, you know, when you start to see those reactions and have those conversations. It's like, all right, this is why I sit by myself at the kitchen table for days at a time making stuff up. But it's also it's even more exciting than to be able to do it with someone else and then to get to share that journey with somebody.
So you're sitting at the table, Jeff is in the minivan, you know, on the family vacation, wherever it's happening. And all I can say is, on behalf of all of both of your fan sets and all of the fan sets to come, thank you guys. Thank you so much for what you create.
Well, thank you.
Our pleasure.
Now, speaking of those fans, existing and future, where is the best place for them to find each of you?
I am at robwhart.com, which is my main website, and you can find all my links there. But I have an Instagram, robwhart1. I've got a Substack, which are kind of like my 2 main places to kind of hang out these days.
You'll find me at Really Jeff Rake on Instagram. You can look it up, but I think it's Jeff_Rake on Twitter. I'm out there on Facebook. Just check my name, and look forward to everyone having the opportunity to read this book and hopefully the books to come.
Okay, guys, I am so sorry. I was going to let you go, but like I said, I fangirl over you. So I'm going to sneak in a last really quick one, if it's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Favorite Twilight Zone episode for each of you?
Oh, man.
Ooh.
How to Serve Man.
That's a good one. Oh man, this is tough. I don't know the episode title. The one with Meredith Burgess and his glasses break at the end.
The nuclear war. Yeah.
That one, I remember watching that as a kid, and like, you know, as a dorky little kid who loved to read, and just feeling the most intense feeling of heartbreak in the world in that moment.
Absolutely awesome. I knew you guys would have favorites. Again, one of my very, very new favorites and an ardent favorite. The book is DETOUR. You will absolutely, absolutely love each and every character. And oh, what a story. Thank you again, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Twisted Passages. We hope to see you next time.